I think the world has kind of tried to hijack what we're supposed to be as Christians. I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but I've had people come up to me and ask me for things, knowing I'm a Christian or more particularly a priest. And when I've told them no, I've been told all sorts of things. Like, how dare you? I thought you were supposed to be generous and giving and loving, and you're a bigot and all the rest of this. And whenever I hear a gospel like the one today, it gives me pause, for one sense, to think, okay, Jesus does say really strong things. Give to everyone who asks of you, and from one who takes what is yours, don't demand it back. But see, I think the problem is we've let the world dictate what Christ meant by all of these things. I know at first glance we can look at these kinds of things and think, well, I'm just supposed to lay myself down and be a doormat for everybody who comes my way. But at the same time, he has these instances that he speaks of that he's telling us how to deal with, I would say, evil when we're confronted with it. So one example we have here in the gospel: to the person who strikes you on one cheek, offer the other one as well. That can, again, seem like we need to be doormats for everybody. But in ancient culture, whenever you'd strike somebody, you would backhand them to show that they were inferior to you. So if you're turning the other cheek, you're inviting a challenge that now they can't backhand you again because you've turned your cheek, and they have to either slap you, which is I don't mean to be sexist, but it's a feminine kind of thing, or they'd have to punch you or hit you with the other hand, which they weren't allowed to do with their left hand. So it's basically it's a dare, basically, to say, okay, you struck me. Let's see what you're going to do with this. It kind of invites, in my mind, like whenever somebody says something and somebody's got a quick response back to them. I'm not terribly light on my feet like that, but that's pretty neat how Jesus would do that. Because the point is even less of, it's not about being clever per se, but it's about standing in the face of evil and saying, no, this is not how you will treat me. So the next example we've got, from the person who takes your cloak, do not withhold even your tunic. That's like any of you asking me, Father, give me your cassock, and then me giving you my t-shirt and shorts after that too. You'd see me naked, and nobody wants that. And so it's, again, inviting this same kind of thing. Oh, you want my tunic? Well, here, or you want my cloak? Here's my tunic too. And now you're ashamed and everybody's embarrassed. And again, so it's standing in the face of somebody who's oppressing you and saying, okay, fine, but this is what it looks like when you abuse others. It's not in today's gospel reading, but in another version, in another gospel, there's this line about pressing somebody into service. And he says, whenever you get pressed into service for a mile, go for 2. The Roman legion had the right of pressing you into service for a mile, but that's as far as they could press you into service. So to go 2 miles with them is to actually have them break the law, and they could get in all sorts of trouble for such things. So again, it's standing in the face of abuse, opposition, whatever, and saying, okay, fine, but I'm going to show you that this is wrong. So should we be generous and loving and kind and lay ourselves down for others? Yes. I think this is our example, right? Christ has done that for us, and we don't deserve it by any stretch of that means. And at the same time, Christ wants to do something more with evil. Because the problem is, I think we have a tendency in our culture, at least the way I see it, is people want to step on us, and oftentimes we let people step on us, and it's perpetuating the same cycle of pain and destruction. And that's actually on us for not standing up against it in some way, to not finally stand up and say, no, you will no longer abuse me, mistreat me, or say mean things to me or whatever else. Because that's how, maybe you've heard the adage before, evil wins by good doing nothing. And I think on top of all of this, it can feel mean to say no. I think we've gotten into that mode as a culture, at least I feel it, that if we say no to anything, that somehow we're being mean. No, we might be stopping somebody from being enabled to just keep on their same patterns. A handout is not a hand up. Those are two different things. And so basically, my challenge to all of us is to do the hard discernment. Because sometimes we do have to accept sufferings as they come because there's absolutely nothing we can do with it. I think in particularly maybe some sickness that we've tried to deal with medicine or doctors or all the rest, and we just don't know what else to do. And so, okay, Lord, I offer this up to you. I don't know what else to do with this thing. But at the same time, there might be people and circumstances that we encounter that it might be on us to do something about them. Maybe you've heard of the liberation theology movement that happened in South America, and it's still a thing. And yes, I know there's problems with it in general, but it, I think, came from a good place of people tired of being oppressed and mistreated by their governments and by the society around them, and saying, no more. We're not going to allow you to abuse us. And it's with those kinds of movements that maybe there will be a change of heart. We have to ultimately do all of these things out of love, right? Because if we're doing it for vengeance, I think that's at the core of this gospel. There's no more vengeance. There's no more eye for eye and tooth for tooth. But why am I responding the way I'm responding with the being pressed into service, or you're taking my tunic as well as my cloak? Because I want something better for you too. I'm going to tell you you're wrong, and I want you to change because it's going to be better for you and for me and for everybody else we encounter for the rest of our lives. So friends, I encourage you to do the hard discernment. Maybe there's people and circumstances you have in mind right now. Are these invitations from the Lord to lay yourself down and say, okay, this is something I have to accept? Or is he inviting you to stand in the face of what could be evil and challenge it?